welcome to Your Choice 2020 General Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Brandy Yates, and joining me for this candidate interview is Thomas Gorman, non-partisan candidate for Okemos School Board. Thomas, thank you so much for being here, and at this time, we'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, like you said, my name is Thomas Gorman. I've been a resident of Okemos for 15 years now. I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's in computer science from Michigan State University. Throughout my time at Okemos, I saw there was a real need for student insight in the creation of policies within our district. And so that's why I decided to run and become a candidate, was because I believe that the best way I could give back to our community was by fulfilling that role on the board.
Thank you. Each Okemos School Board candidate will be asked a standard list of 10 questions. Let's get started with question number 1. What qualifications do you bring to the Okemos School Board?
I feel that being a 2020 graduate of Okemos High School, my views will more accurately reflect the needs of our students than any of my competitors. As a student, I participated in a wide variety of extracurriculars, from track and cross country to the fine arts, such as band and marching band, volunteer organizations such as the Chieftain Champs Mentoring Program at Kinwa. And I feel like those combine to give me a very well-rounded idea of the concerns of our student body.
Question number 2. What do you think are the top 2 services that need the most attention to provide the biggest benefits for students and parents?
I think the 2 services that need the most attention are the counseling services that we can provide as a district and the technological services that we provide. Through the counseling services that the district provides, we can maintain a healthy and positive learning environment for our students, both in the classroom and outside at home. And through the technological services that we are providing, we are both closing the educational gap between our most and least fortunate students, as well as making our education system more efficient overall.
Question number 3, and bear with me, it's kind of a long one.
Yeah.
Remote learning has become the new normal in many school districts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you think this will impact the future of education? And if elected, what steps would you take to help ensure adequate resources are available and student success continues no matter the circumstance?
Well, I would say that this pandemic is making us rethink the way we're currently educating our kids. Obviously, Okemos is currently in a completely distance format, doing all of their instruction online. But I believe that as we transition back into an in-person environment, it is likely that we will keep a lot of the aspects from our distance plan that we thought really worked, and that will end up accelerating the use of technology in our schools. From now on, students might not get snow days completely off. That's not something that's necessary anymore. And so as a member of the board, that's something that I would want to bring up and discuss. In terms of meeting the needs of our students, I think that currently our district is doing a good job of providing them all the resources that they need to be successful at home. We have a very driven community overall, but if any other needs were to arise in the future, my number 1 priority would be providing students with what they feel they need to be successful.
Question number 4. Please comment on how you believe the Okemos School District and the school board should approach new or continued diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.
Well, Okemos is an extremely diverse district. I think the board should continue its efforts to hire more faculty members of color to ensure that our teachers are at least somewhat reflective of our student body in terms of race and ethnicity. In terms of equity and inclusion, on the basis of equity, I have a pop-up. In terms of equity, I would say that we should focus on making sure all of our students are treated fairly, making sure that, all of our students, regardless of how fortunate they are, have the same amount of access to the resources that we are using in and outside of the classroom, as well as making sure that all of our students feel that they're being treated fairly by administration through disciplinary action. I think setting clear guidelines for disciplinary action is very important in making students feel that they're being treated fairly. One thing that I feel Okemos has done a decent job in is educating students about different cultures. I think that goes a long way into making us a more inclusive community overall. So examples of that would be our diversity assembly every year at the high school, where for once in the year, students get the opportunity to show off their cultural diversity to the school.
Question number 5, and this is also another multi-part topic. Please address policies regarding safety for kids at school that combat issues such as bullying, violence, and drug use.
I'll start off by saying, in terms of violence, I feel like Okemos has done a very good job in mitigating any violence that goes on, especially physical violence within a school. And part of the credit for that, I feel, has to go to the students. They have done a good job in breeding a culture that is not tolerant or accepting of physical violence or fighting. In terms of bullying, I would say that the administration has done a good job of mitigating any bullying that happens within our campuses, but that effort could be made better outside of our campuses. I think that policies and programs such as OKSA have done a good job mitigating that inside the campus, but then in terms of fixing the relationships that students are having outside of the campus and online, we're going to have to focus on making a more inclusive community overall. And that comes partially in the classroom, and that'll translate outside the classroom as we try to make our community more tolerant of the differences between individuals.
Anything on that last part of the question about drug use?
Oh, yes. Drug use is extremely pervasive at Okemos. This is a problem that we have faced for a long time. I think that the way our current administration is tackling the issue is fundamentally flawed, particularly on the basis of marijuana use and vape use amongst our teens. Our rates of marijuana usage at Okemos High School are extremely high, and that translates even down to the middle schools. I believe that we should focus mainly on educating our students as much as we can about these substances, and that through that education, they will be more likely to make the correct decision when the time comes. I would say if there's anything we value as a district, it's our education. And that is a value that's shared by the students. And recently, there have been studies coming out that show marijuana usage amongst adolescents correlates with decreased IQ amongst those adults. And I feel if that was more well-known throughout the high school, that our rates of marijuana usage would be far lower. In terms of vaping, I would have to say that the attitude I've seen from administration and the national efforts to stop youth from vaping have been mainly focused on making sure that they're aware that nicotine is an addictive substance and that these vapes likely have nicotine in them when they're consuming them. But the fact of the matter is, our kids know that these vapes have nicotine in them. They're not leaving the class once an hour to go taste blueberry, like some of the administration may think. These kids are addicted to nicotine. I would view it chiefly as a problem with addiction. And if we want to deal with that, then we are going to have to provide more addiction resources to our students and make those addiction resources more well known to our students.
Question number 6. How can the school district balance the budget and meet the needs of its students and the core curriculum?
Well, there's no way around the fact that if we see losses in the budget or the state mandates more funding for certain programs without giving us more funding overall, certain programs will lose funding or be cut entirely. While making that decision of how to best allocate our funding, I would consult teachers, staff, faculty, as well as administrators, students, and get the opinions of my more learned counterparts on the board of this issue. I recognize this is an issue where my opinion would not be the most educated, and instead of driving that opinion home, I would be more apt to educate myself and try to get the opinions of everyone in the community.
Question number 7. What role do you believe extracurricular activities such as athletics and the arts play in education?
I believe extracurriculars are extremely important. Like I said earlier, I participated in a wide variety of extracurriculars. And besides the evidence currently showing that participation in extracurriculars such as the fine arts and athletics can increase academic performance, I believe these extracurriculars provide a great outlet for our students to socialize. And, when the focus in the classroom is on education, as it should be, that those socialization needs of our students are not met in the classroom. And I think that socialization is key for the emotional development, and then by extension, the academic success of our students.
Question number 8. What do you believe is the school board's role in student or faculty disciplinary action?
In terms of disciplinary action, I would say the key for both is clarity and consistency. I think the board needs to be very clear in setting guidelines regarding breaking of what rules and what specific actions will result in what actions from administration to reprimand them. In terms of the disciplining of students, I think that certain amounts of discretion should be given to the administrators and faculty who are closer to the situation, both in proximity and knowledge, but that needs to be accompanied with oversight and guidelines from the board to ensure that our students are being treated fairly and equally.
Question number 9. Please address where Okemos stands with college readiness.
I think Okemos has done an extremely good job at preparing its students for college. We are seeing large numbers of our students attend college and then be successful and graduate college. I think if we're wanting to improve our district overall, we could focus on other areas such as life readiness, even more than college readiness.
Okay, question number 10, and our final question of our standard list. What do you consider the top 2 challenges facing the Okemos School District today and in the future?
I think our chief concern right now is educating our students in a safe manner. It is very difficult for us to educate our students safely during this crisis. It's not just about keeping our students safe, but also the community at large. That has been our primary challenge for the past 8 months and will continue to be our primary challenge for likely many more. But beyond that, I would say that our next challenge will be keeping up with the evolving world of primary education. Like I said earlier, due to COVID, we will likely see an acceleration of the use of technology in our schools. And to set our students up to be successful, I would like to keep us at least caught up or even ahead of the curve with that. That'll just be something we have to focus a lot of our efforts into in order to keep up with the rest of the world, the developing world. I would say that when COVID is less of an issue in the future, one issue that I'm fairly passionate about that I think we should focus on is student engagement. What I saw at Okemos was really a sort of haves and have-nots of the education students were receiving. As you know, some students were successful in the beginning of the year, others struggled more, and those students that were struggling often did not receive the extra help that they needed and became uninvested. I think if we can keep all of our students completely engaged and passionate about the topics they're learning about in school, then we will see them learning far more and being far more successful later down the line.
So thank you so much. We've completed our standard list of 10 questions. We do have some time remaining if you don't mind answering a couple follow-ups.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of virtual learning in the current landscape, how do you think the district is currently or maybe needs improvement in meeting the needs of those with special needs, special education?
I feel that meeting all the needs of our students with special education during this crisis has been one problem that we are struggling with. It's very difficult to gauge in a distance manner how much our students are actually learning, and that becomes even more difficult with our special education students. All we can do is try our best and use what the knowledge we have on hand in screening our students to see when they're falling behind and who needs extra help, and then providing that to them as best we can. I think that the Okemos School District will likely benefit, especially in its special education programs, as more students return to the classroom.
And then another follow-up, you mentioned addiction resources. Can you give your opinion regarding mental health awareness for students and mental health resources?
Yes, mental health resources are something that are extremely important to me. Like I said, one of the most important services that we can provide as a district is our counseling services. I feel that our mental health resources were not as well planned as they could have been as we transitioned into our online learning system during COVID, and that more thought should have gone into the planning of screeners to find our students that are struggling with mental health issues. I think that as a community, we can be more accepting overall and try to break down the stigma surrounding mental health issues so students aren't facing the social pressures in asking for help that they would be otherwise.
Thank you. With a few minutes remaining, we'd like to give you this time to make a closing statement to our audience.
Well, I encourage everybody out there to vote, regardless of whether you're going to vote for me. This is how you can influence the lives of everyone in our nation. And I think it is incredibly important for us to have as many people participating in our democracy as we can. So everyone get out to the polls. If you can, vote by mail, but make sure to get there.
Okay, thank you so much for being here with us. And I want to thank the audience for watching this candidate interview with Thomas Gorman, non-partisan candidate for Okemos School Board. I'm Brandy Yates, inviting you to watch live general election coverage on Tuesday, November 3rd, right here on HOMTV. Thank you for watching.